Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes. No signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Come on. White, come on, baby. Love, no more, baby. It's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white.
Make me feel well, oh, I can't break the spell. I just have to be true.
Make me feel well, oh, I can't break the spell. I just have to be true.
It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. It's black and white.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the UK&I Radical Race Series in 2022. It's season 2. We're very much winding down now towards the end of another great 12-round season. This is round 11. This is the famous Nordschliefe round, and this time we're incorporating the GP circuit as well. One season ago, we just went racing around the Green Hill just on its own, but this time around we're getting into that GP circuit as well. So should be a very interesting race at the iconic Radical Nürburgring race. My name's Ian O'Leary. I'll be alongside Jack Oliphant here tonight to bring you through all of the action. And yeah, it should be an interesting one here, Jack. We were talking about this a little bit earlier on. It's a very challenging circuit, and it does often mean that the gaps at the end are quite big because you need a lot of skill around here.
Yeah, I won't hide away from the fact that the Nürburgring is not my favourite circuit to commentate on, especially, or to drive. It's a thrill to drive, and I can't make it more than an outlap, unfortunately. Hence why when I did the VLN round a couple of weeks ago in the MX-5, I very quickly ended our race in any hopes of a podium position. But we'll press on from that. It's brilliant to be back with the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series, though. I think the last broadcast I did with them was well at the end of December. I think it was the end of season 4 where me and Ed May used to cover them as well on ASR. So brilliant to be back. Fingers crossed. It looks like a pretty sizable grid. Some top talent in there as well. Some drivers that I recognise. It should be a good evening, even if the Nordschleife, as you said, does open up those gaps just a touch. Not because the racing isn't going to be close or the times aren't going to be close, but mainly for the fact that people will probably make mistakes.
Absolutely, and this circuit certainly does punish mistakes. In terms of the time gaps we've got at the moment, well, they're quite small in relation to one another. Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb are separated by a very small margin at the moment. You could probably call it about 0.03 of a second if you like. Scott Lear has got himself into third position ahead of Colin Wynne, then Mike Bousson rounding out the top 5. So some recognisable names there as we come towards the end of qualifying in just a few moments' time. But it is very close at the front as Simon Edwards completes his 10th lap of this qualifying session, not able to go any quicker than he previously has done, but might well get one more go at it. Not entirely sure if time is going to end when time expires like normal, or whether we are going to be able to go on for any longer past the top of the hour. Let's see about that one. But of course, today does have big championship implications as well. It is the penultimate round of the season, and that does mean that it's very realistic to see a championship being wrapped up here today. 77 points is the margin between Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb, the only two-time champions in the UK&I Radical Race Series. Everybody trying to stop Simon Edwards from becoming a 3-time champion, but at the moment, Paul Crabb needs to win this race to be able to do it, and hope that Simon Edwards finishes in 29th or worst. Basically, doesn't finish from this particular race. And if not, then Simon Edwards will be crowned champion. It's very unlikely that anybody else is going to be champion here. 80 points on the table and a 77-point lead for this man here.
I was going to say, it's. I remember John McCutcheon being a bit of he's an absolute demon in the car, but just like he was when I was covering this race series, he isn't able to complete every single round, which really does put him down the order. I mean, he's finished 6 races and won 4 of them, which just goes to show, he would be right there at the top of the pile probably if it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't here as often as some of the others. But Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb separated, like you mentioned, by just over 0.02 of a second, and to be honest, the margin of the championship a little bit larger. But I'm sort of half hoping for a bit of a grandstand finale here, Ewan. I know we only have about 20 drivers, and Simon Edwards needs to come about 29th down, which pretty much makes it impossible without a DNF. But it's still going to be quite interesting to see how they deal with it. I remember Paul Clark as well, currently in 7th place. He's 4th in the championship, but that gap between himself and Dave Kirkman, I'm just having a look to see if Kirkman is here tonight. I don't think he is, unless he just hasn't set a lap time. No, I don't think Kirkman is here, unfortunately. I was going to say, that would be a really interesting little battle to see who gets into the top 4. You never know, Paul Clark probably is aiming for that 3rd position now, because John McCutcheon isn't here.
Yeah, that is very possible for him. If he manages to finish in the top 5, then he could well see himself into that 3rd position. Yeah, it's really a 2-horse race in terms of the top prize. at this stage, although John McCutcheon, as you say, would have certainly been much closer if he had attended every round, as Simon Edwards pulls off to the left-hand side, coming out of Arenberg there, the hairpin down at the bottom of the hill that leads you towards Adenauer Forest, but no extra lap for Simon Edwards. He's going to stay in the pit lane. Paul Crabb is out there at the moment. Paul Clark is as well. Got Richard Brown, Phil Glover, Martina Ward, and Austin Greterex as well. Damien Gee has just left the pit lane to start an outlap, which is not really going to be that useful at this time of the session. So really not much time left, but a few green sectors going around. I guess when you've had 2 hours, it's hard to really see any improvements at this end of the session because everybody's kind of done their best out there already after this amount of time.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I suppose, I don't know how the track state is, whether or not they started with a good amount of rubber, whether the track is now rubbered in, whether the temperature has changed through the last 2 hours as well, and all those sort of things. As the air gets cooler, the track warms up, and all of a sudden the engines start running a bit smoother, but the tyres can grip on the surface. So there's lots of reasons why it might come to pass, but to be honest, the biggest thing with the Nordschleife is the fact that it is so hard to put one flying lap that is absolutely perfect in all 14 sectors, and that sometimes you're pretty much guaranteed if you go along for long enough, you're always going to find one sector that you can do a little bit better on here or there, and you just hope that it accumulates to a really fast lap. That's what Paul Crabb will be hoping for anyway. He's gone purple in sector 1, he's green sector 2, 5, 6 and 8, purple sector 10, and green sector 13 at the moment. He's only got one more sector. I know it says slightly differently at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, but those green sectors, some of them are purple as well. So as Paul Crabb comes across the line, he doesn't have to find that much. Let's just hope his worst sectors aren't any worse than they were before. Paul Crabb comes across the line. Qualifying checker flag has been waved. He will be able to finish there, or has he? I don't think he was allowed to even finish it, as the checker flag was waved as he was going around the final couple of corners.
I'm not entirely sure, really, whether that was just not improving or whether the checker flag was waved. I think it was just a lack of improvement, really, from Paul Crabb. Those sectors where he was down he was down enough to not improve there. A 49-1 by the looks of things. 49-2, kind of, if you want to play with round numbers. It's a couple of seconds away, really, from where he would like to be. It leaves Paul Crabb, the next driver, to come across the line. That time still yet to expire by the looks of things. Still final few seconds, final few drivers to come across the line. But as I said, it's going to be difficult to see anybody really improving from this point. Paul Clark over the line at the minute. His last lap time was the best one he's done so far. So he clearly is able to go quicker, even at this end of the session, over the line for him. And here he comes. Where is it going to be, if any better? It doesn't look like it is any better at all. It is staying where he is, 7th place for Paul Clark there. So he stays in the very condensed midfield. It's very, very condensed indeed. 51.8 from Colin Wynne. Then down to Martin Bucke, who's 5 places below, 52.8. So having 5 cars separated by a second right in the midfield there does bode well for our race. Hopefully that does provide some action for us.
Yeah, the only risk, obviously, with this circuit is the fact that they all potentially crash out, not because they're hitting each other or because they have any lack of skill, but because the Nordschleife is just unforgiving. It's just straight up difficult. So, fingers crossed, we have at least a couple of laps of racing under our belt. I believe we've got a 3-lap race coming up for you, and considering it is about an 8-minute lap, that is going to be still a sizable half-hour race, really, isn't it? Obviously, without any kind of hold-up. So, a good amount of time for drivers to be overtaking, get into the rhythm of the circuit, maybe change their setups from qualifying, all those sort of good things. The driver we're actually currently riding with is Austin Greterex. Now, he's one of 4 drivers who are currently not set a lap yet. I'd have thought the timer would have ticked down because I thought once checkered flag hit, you only get 2 minutes to actually finish up your lap, but clearly I'm wrong. So Austin Greterex, one of 4 drivers, like I said. Guy Robertson hasn't set a legal lap time. I believe he tried to do an out lap and hasn't done anything else. Damien G also hasn't set a lap time, and James Child hasn't set a lap time. And Ewan, like you said a little bit earlier, this is a 2-hour window that they've been able to set in to sit into and get a qualifying lap in. So they could have logged on at 7 o'clock and been able to potentially set a lap time and then go for their dinner and wait for a couple of hours until they jump back on for the actual race. But by the looks of it, as I said, 4 drivers, soon to be 3 drivers, haven't even bothered to turn up and turn a lap, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But there we go. Austin Greatorex, he only needs 1 lap, and he jumps himself all the way up into 3rd position. Quite a way off Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb, don't get me wrong. However, that's going to annoy a few people, I'm sure, considering Austin, as I mentioned, has only just turned up, really.
Yeah, that's a very good lap time indeed. Only 2nd lap time of the session, but only 2 were needed by the looks of things to produce a very good time. It's 3rd for Austin Greatorex there, so he slots himself nicely onto the 2nd row. As you say, 3 drivers not setting a lap time in this session. It does leave us 19 cars on the grid for our race here today. 3 laps does sound about right, by the way. It's going to be just under 25 minutes in terms of the race distance, and I believe that is the distance of the TCR races that happen around here. Although, they do the GP and circuit and everything as well, because the race at the Nürburgring 24 hours, which is on this weekend, where you don't use the Mercedes Arena at all. So yeah, they use the same layout, and they only have 3 laps at it as well. It is a famous circuit, more synonymous with that long endurance race and obviously the kind of German style racing, but I'm not entirely sure why it gets included in the Radicals every single season. I'm not sure if it was in the season you covered, Jack, but it certainly was in last season. It was the finale, the Nordschleife on its own in isolation, who got the GP circuit this time as well. I'm not sure why iRacing puts these Radicals on the Nordschleife so often, since I've never seen it in real life before.
No, well, if you have a local sim group or anybody who sort of runs their own series, like the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series and a few other sort of sim companies that put the events on, or sim communities that put their own events on, sort of thing, there seems to be a habit of putting the Nordschleife as the finale of any community sort of led race series, and I know why it is. It's because it's a special event, and it's very fun to drive, and it's very testing and demanding, and it's sort of a special sort of occasion, isn't it? So as I said, you do end up doing a lot of finales, and they are around the Nordschleife. And you're right, the last time I covered one of these race series, the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series, and actually was on the Nordschleife. And it wasn't the GP loop. The GP loop, in my opinion, is actually far better as a race circuit. If we just did the GP loop as a normal, like, I don't know, round 6 or something like that, then, in my opinion, it's actually really good fun, and it promotes really good racing. So that's where I imagine we'll see a lot of the overtakes. But yeah, it is just a bit of a habit that everybody wants to drive the Nürburgring, so that's why they come and do it. I am looking forward, however, to catching up with the 24-hour this weekend. In real life, I covered my very first 24-hour at Silverstone last weekend. It was a bunch of Citroen C1s, so it wasn't exactly fast or frantic, but it was very entertaining. And I don't know about you, Ewan, but I was actually never really that into 24-hour racing or endurance racing as a whole. But since getting into commentary and getting to cover those sort of things, it really does suck you in. You start to appreciate the tactics and the how hard it really is.
Oh yeah, I have to say I've been a fan of 24-hour racing for quite a long time. So the same thing didn't really happen with me. But I do understand what you mean about the commentary side of things, making it more interesting. I do struggle sometimes to watch races just as a fan now, because I kind of want to be talking about it and doing something while it's on, or if you know what I mean. So that does make life a bit difficult. But no, it's a fantastic form of racing, and what you often see when you think about this circuit, and when you see it in our racing. Of course, we have the VLN series, which is, I believe it's an official run series, has been for quite a few years now, as you referred to a little bit earlier on. That still runs and whatever. Not with the Radicals, of course. There are different sets of cars for that, but yes, you can still take on those kind of series. Not entirely sure what we're waiting for at the moment, by the way.
Absolutely no idea.
No, they're not. The drivers aren't being allowed to grid up right now either. We kind of sat in the end of a qualifying session with not much of an idea quite why we're no longer going anywhere.
No, sometimes it's because somebody's finishing a lap or something, but everybody's in the pits. The timer obviously is ticked down to 0 because we had a checkered flag wave in our face. So I'm just guessing that someone in the server doesn't want to advance the session and they're pausing it for some reason. As I said, I'm not entirely sure why, because we should have been racing realistically 10 minutes ago, actually, now. So, yeah, a bit of a shame, but hopefully we'll find out sooner rather than later. I don't know, maybe if you can have a scour through the Discord, maybe you, and see if anybody's had a chat or anybody's sort of flagged anything. Big thank you to everybody who's, while Ewan is doing that, big thank you to everybody who's tuning in. It's lovely to see you. Not so lovely to see the spam bots in the chat. If everybody could kindly report them, then that'd be great.
Yes. Let's. Nobody's mentioned anything in this in the Discord for the moment.
No.
So I'm not entirely sure what we're going to see. What I can discuss though, while this is going on, yeah, we're still stuck. Seeing some discussion about what the 2023 season 3 schedule is going to be. So we're going to. I'll read some out. I don't know if this is the final one, but this it looks like what is going to be the schedule for next season. So a couple of a real quite American feel to the start of the season with Royal Atlanta, Laguna Seca, VAR, and Sebring all to kick us off. The relatively new Red Bull Ring next, then Summit Point, which we don't get to see very much of at all. That'll be fun. A trip to Australia as well in the form of Phillip Island. A trip to the Far East in the form of Suzuka. And then we go back to Europe for the end at Imola, Hockenheim, Alton Park. And the Nordschleife without the GP is going to return. And Sebring, by the way, will be a night race with Imola kind of in the sunset kind of region. So that's a decent calendar. 4 American circuits to kick us off, though, is a bit of a grouping together we don't often see.
I was going to say, it sounds like what the F1 calendar is starting to turn into, isn't it, really? With the amount of American circuits. And to be fair, in sim race, normally in real life racing, you'd think, oh, well, that's fair enough because it means the teams only have to move around one country or one area. But in sim racing, all you have to do is click 2 buttons and all of a sudden you're the other side of the world, aren't you? So, yeah, not sure. But to be fair, those are actually really good circuits. It's not like we're doing the Miami Grand Prix or any rubbish like that. It should be actually really entertaining, especially these radicals will suit a lot of the tracks that they're going to. They're always fantastic around places like Alton Park. Suzuka will be really good. Phillip Island, in my personal opinion, is actually one of my favourite. When I'm driving the MX-5 and everything like that, Phillip Island is actually a really, really good and exciting track to drive. So fingers crossed that these guys will be able to do it. And lo and behold, Ewan, we're into a gridding opportunity. So the drivers can actually line up and you can take us through them.
Yes, let's have a quick look at who's where then, shall we? Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb, the 2 remaining championship contenders, will be on the front row together ahead of Austin Gretorix. It's going to be Scott Lear and Colin Wynn running at the top 5. Booston in 6th with Martinez, De La Cruz and Clark sharing the 4th row. Martin Booker and Martina Ward round out the top 10. That's Paul LeMay and Ray Peasley. Michael LeMay is just behind the other LeMay in 13th. Richard Brown is 14th ahead of Phil Glover and Phil Jocelyn together on row 8. Then we've got James Child and Guy Robertson and Damien Gee rounding out the 19-car grid for this evening's race. It took a bit of time. There was a bit of discussion in Iris and that was able to get hold of about it, but they're all over that now and they're all looking forward to the race. The penultimate UK&I Radical Race Series race of Season 2 is underway, and it's a shocker from Simon Edwards. Goodness me. Paul Crabb gets away like an absolute rocket, and he'll lead into Turn 1, but Simon Edwards has given himself a lot of work to do here. Into Turn 1 goes the 2-time champion, Paul Crabb. He makes his way through nicely. Scott Lear makes a nice start as well up into 2nd place. Simon Edwards drops down the order like a stone as he gets caught up into the first chicane. Goodness me, drama on the penultimate round for the championship leader. He's gone from first to last in 2 corners.
And we'll have a look at how he did that as well. He obviously tangled with the number 84, Sergio Martinez de la Cruz, which is a fantastic name and one I hope to get have to repeat many times as Paul Crabb goes off. That's not something I wanted to repeat many times. Paul Crabb goes very wide, and just as the championship was opening up for him slightly, with Simon Edwards getting caught up, Paul Crabb's absolutely just thrown himself off. Maybe he felt sorry for Simon Edwards. I very much doubt it, but that was a big mistake, and now his tyres will be very dirty. Paul Crabb drops down to 13 as Martina Ward and Phil Jocelyn are swapping positions just up ahead, and actually Martina Ward's got a lot of damage on the front left of that car, I think, unless that's just the livery, which I do quite like, but I don't know if there is any damage on that side of the car. It's dropping like a stone.
Yeah, there is definitely damage on that car. You can see the rear wing there is not straight at all.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so that is certainly damage. There has been a lot going on there at the first chicane. Don't know what happened to Paul Crabb. He just went wide completely on his own, which is all fine as the battle now out onto the Nordschleife and onto the Hatzenbach for the first time. It's Scott Lear and Austin Greatorex battling 1 and 2. These two drivers we haven't seen very much of all season long. Never mind up towards the front. We haven't seen them on the grid all season long very much. But now, all of a sudden, they're fighting over the race win. This is quite remarkable indeed. Wait to see if Simon Edwards has got any damage from the incidents that he's had. He's down in 16th. Paul Crabb, I don't think, has any damage, but he is 11th. Where are these big names going to be able to get up to? And are they going to be challenging the leaders? Are 1 and 2 already gone in this race?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it, really? And it has just occurred to me, ladies and gentlemen, I will apologise profusely because I don't believe we have any sound, and I'm so used to not broadcasting that I don't believe we have any sound because they're not coming out of my headphones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this first place battle to calm down as Greatorex is looking up the inside. Sorry, this will be the outside, won't it? Going through the fast left up the hill, very close to the edge of the circuit then, but as they hit the brakes, they go down the gears, and I think the inside should favour Greatorex, and he should be able to make that position stick. There we go. So Scott Lear will now get into the draft himself and probably start to think about a slingshot. But this is a fantastic start to the race, really, because not only have we got these two leaders, we now have the opportunity to watch the likes of Paul Crabb and Simon Edwards come back through the field as well. I will get this sound sorted as quickly as I can now that the front battle is just calmed down a touch, Ewan. So maybe keep an eye on your timing, and I'm just going to have to send the ladies and gentlemen into a screenshot at the moment. 1 second.
Okay, yeah, sorry about apologies for the sound problems. We'll get them sorted. We'll try and do this without pictures for the moment, but I don't have any either, so it is going to be tricky. But we'll keep an eye on things as they go with Austin Greatorex, Scott Lear, 1, 2 at the moment, and there they are once again. Austin Greatorex has had a good start to this one. Remember from qualifying, very late to actually get into the session, but only really needed one real good go at it, and he was very strongly into third position ahead of Scott Lear by a couple of seconds a lap. Martina Ward and Phil Jocelyn both in the pit lane now. Ward still getting her car repaired after that opening lap. Phil Jocelyn, I'm afraid, looks like he has already retired from this race, so that is a bit of a shame to see, but either way, Simon Edwards is still going up through the field, and here he is trying to get through on Martin Booker and Guy Robertson out towards Bergwerk at the moment, and then up the hill. The long drag towards Kesselton is not a straight at all, but it's a long flat out section where slipstream can really benefit you.
It absolutely can, but you have to be careful because it is relatively narrow as Simon Edwards is watching two drivers get it very wrong just ahead of him, and Sergio Martinez de la Cruz. I said it was a name I wanted to repeat, not particularly for that reason though. Unfortunately getting all kind of mixed up as Martin Booker heads back to the pits as well. So Simon Edwards all of a sudden found his way into the lead of this little battle without having to do anything, as is the way of the Nordschleife. Sometimes it works in mysterious ways, does the Nürburgring. So at the moment, Simon Edwards has jumped back. So very quickly, we're going to have a look at this fight. Then we're going to have a quick peek at what we actually missed earlier on, which is how Simon Edwards actually came to blows with Sergio Martinez de la Cruz on the opening, well, 2 corners, I believe it was. So that'll be very interesting as well. We're currently watching Michael LeMay hold off Richard Brown. And then you got Paul Crabb just ahead as well in a similarly close battle with Paul LeMay, not the Battle of the Pauls, just ahead of us. And then Sergio Martinez de la Cruz has actually rejoined the circuit. He's having a good old ding-dong with Guy Robertson and James Child as well. As you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Paul Crabb has just overtaken Paul LeMay, who seems to be going relatively slowly. I think he's just been put off slightly, potentially, by that move by Mr. Crabb. And look at that, he's got damage on the left rear of the car as well. What I will be surprised at, Ewan, is the fact that these drivers don't have a fast repair available to them. Martina Ward is still in the pits, and whether or not that's because of damage, or whether because she's sort of just fed up and given up on the Nordschleife, which is understandable as well, it is slightly surprising if they wouldn't have that fast repair, because it really does cripple you if you crash out here.
Yeah, I do believe they are supposed to have one, but Martina will get in repairs at the moment. She is still intending to get back in the race, I think. Martin Booker, though, back in the pit lane and will not be returning to this race by the looks of things. As Austin Grettrex looked like he's had a problem on this lap somewhere as well, because he was leading, but now he's down in 4th already. Got Scott Lear, Mike Booson and Colin Wynn, the new top 3. Not entirely sure why Austin has dropped back so severely, quite so quickly. Can't see any damage to that car at the minute. It can't have been a spin, surely. But he has been overtaken by a few cars on this lap. Looks like he's going to be able to get one of them back down the Dottinger-Hohen into the Tiergarten for the first time. But let's see, outside line is going to be the inside for the left-handed for Kink at the top of the straight here anyway. But Wynn is just hedging his bets, and as soon as you see them go side by side there, you saw Wynn did certainly have the legs and was able to just stay in front. The slipstream again will allow Grettrex to have another opportunity. Maybe it won't get through here, and so they go single file into the Tiergarten for the first time, and battling continues on further back. I believe this is the 2 LeMays. Michael LeMay getting in front of Paul LeMay for 8th position there, as Simon Edwards just in the background. It's caught up behind all 3.
Yeah, the May's having it out here, unfortunately. It's, I think, Le May is French for the May, and I'm not sure what, but anyway, yeah, I was trying to make a joke there, it didn't really work. Simon Edwards is making his way through the order. Richard Brown is the next on his victim list as he goes side by side into turn 1, and you might actually have 2 positions in one here, because Paul LeMay was going particularly slowly, and as they take the curb through the left-hander, turn 2, missing out a lot of the GP circuit, even though Paul LeMay was going quite slowly. He's actually fought back a bit here, hasn't he, as Edwards tries to go around the outside of him. Championship leader, of course, Simon Edwards at the moment. He doesn't want to be put off the circuit any more than he already has, with that little bit of damage on the rear right of the car. Simon Edwards manages to get back through them. Colin Wynn and Austin Greatorex are the drivers that are currently on the screen. Austin hasn't managed to get back through and get onto the podium position just yet, but he looks like he's going to dive up the inside into the GP loop, and you can see what I mean, Ewan, when I say that the GP loop actually really does encourage fantastic racing and loads of overtaking opportunities. So, personally, one of my favourite circuits, but because it's connected to the Nordschleife, when everybody says, oh, let's go to the Nürburgring, they go and do the Nordschleife instead. It sort of gets missed out, but I think people underappreciate just how good the GP loop actually is.
Yeah, maybe it is underappreciated a little bit. I have to say, it's not one of my favourites in the world. It's a little bit. I don't know why. I just don't for some reason. But yeah, I do think you're right though. It may be looked over a little bit because of the challenge of the Nordschleife and the pull of the Nordschleife that it obviously has. It being in such close proximity, it really does mean that you would likely visit the Nordschleife rather than the actual GP circuit itself. Here is just looking up the road. Mike Booson trying to defend from Austin Greatorex as they come out of the Hatzenbach now and towards Flugplatz at the top of the hill, trying to make a move here inside line into the crest of the hill here, and it looks like Mike Booson's just going to lift off going into the corner rather sensibly, really. You don't want to be going side by side through many of these corners, and that is certainly one of them. So Austin Greatorex is back up into second. Still remains a mystery as to what happened to him in the first place, but he looks like he's moving back in the right direction.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pull up how he got overtaken in first position. Now, I had it on my screen, and now it has disappeared, which is really annoying because I had it all nicely lined up. But I will try and figure that one out. Tell you what, whilst I'm doing that, why don't you talk us through you and what exactly happened to Simon Edwards on the first corner? We're going to watch Sergio Martinez de la Cruz first.
Yeah, let's see really what happened to him. Let's not forget that Simon Edwards had a shocker of a start, and it put him all the way back here. It was that I think he got hit possibly before this, and then Sergio de la Cruz gets spun in front of Edwards. So somebody hits him here. I'm convinced. Yeah, there we are. Slam into the side. That's Martina Ward. So that's how she got so much left-hand side damage. That's how Edwards has got his right-hand side damage, and then the De La Cruz part has nothing to do with him. But it did slow him down and put him down into 19th position. I think Martina just gets it all locked up on the brakes and gets things a little bit wrong. This is Paul LeMay trying to just pick his way through. Is he the one who gets into the side of De La Cruz, or does De La Cruz get into the side of him? Well, draw your own conclusions, really, but it was certainly the contact between those two that spun out the yellow car you can see on the right-hand side there. Let's have another look into the first chicane. Does De La Cruz go too wide here? Well, maybe Paul LeMay doesn't quite realise they are 3 wide. It's all just a bit of a mess, and it's all a bit too close.
It was, yeah, you're absolutely right. It was all a little bit too close for comfort, and unfortunately, it didn't end particularly well for obviously Simon Edwards or Martina Ward or Martinez de la Cruz. So not really ideal. Now, I've found how Austin Greatorex has lost the position. I don't know why it keeps pausing every time I select. That's why he ended up going off the line, off the racetrack. So that meant he just absolutely bled time. He lost the lead to Scott Lear. And we'll just have one quick last look at that one, but it's fairly self-explanatory. You can see him going very wide over the curb onto the grass, and unfortunately he had to kiss goodbye to his race lead. However, he is back up into second place. So let's have a very quick. He's got 2.5 seconds to catch up to the driver ahead as we again watch Simon Edwards carve through the order. Now, I have to say, although we don't like seeing Simon Edwards or Paul Crabb or any front-running racing driver, any race driver at all, that's LeMay going very, very sideways after clipping the curb. Going off at the first couple of corners, it does give us something to watch, doesn't it, you? And it's very impressive to see these drivers not only handle the Nordschleife in the amazing fashion that they do, but also to actually overtake people is very impressive.
Yes, it's very tricky, and so yeah, when you see someone doing it like Edwards is doing here, that it is very impressive. But oh goodness me, Paul LeMay is Michael LeMay, who is just up in front here, is struggling. Looks like he's got a bit of damage to the left-hand side, possibly. You can see doesn't quite look symmetrical to the right. Looks a little bit. It just looks wrong for some reason. So I think there has been a bit of a touch there along the way, but Simon Edwards has had his own contact today, of course, as well, and we're probably about over halfway through this race now. It's only a 3-lap race, and we're coming up to the final lap here in a few moments' time, so Edwards hasn't got long, and he's going to take his opportunity now, dive in the inside Brunson, I think that is, and Michael LeMay getting all out of shape on the outside line there, Vipperman, excuse me, but either way, LeMay getting all out of shape. Paul LeMay is now right on the back of him. That is a bit of a nightmare for us, but very decisive move from Simon Edwards, and he is up to 8th place. Despite all of his issues today, it looks like he's still going to be crowned as champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just had a look at the YouTube chat. Thank you very much to a couple of drivers getting involved. Jamie Bird saying that's better. Cheers, guys. I'm assuming that was about the sound. I do apologise about that one. As I said, it was December last time I broadcasted something. I'm used to having no sound because that's how Discord streams to it all the time. And apparently they do have a fast repair. 1701 Nero says. So they have one per race. So I'm not 100% sure why the likes of Martina Ward and Martin Booker and Phil Jocelyn. Martina Ward is back out now, a lap down, and obviously that fast repair wasn't so fast. Maybe she didn't have it ticked or something. I don't know. But yeah, luckily, nice to see that we've got 17 drivers out there at the moment, even if Martin Booker even, and Phil Jocelyn haven't managed to get back out. Now, this is the battle of the LeMays at the moment. Now, Ewan, do you know what the relation is between these two? Is Paul the father and Michael's the son, or the other way around, or the brothers? Because we can never figure it out, and no one told us when we were actually commentating last time round. We always just assumed one of them was a father and one of them was a son.
I don't know.
No,
I
no
do
one
not
tells us
know.
these things, do they?
No, we'll probably have to ask them at this stage. I often see them together, but here they are at the moment, 3 wide even, with Richard Brown trying to send it down the inside as well. A bit of contact with one of them, and there's even more. Still 3 wide.
no,
None of them want
no.
to give in. Oh, my word. And then eventually they have to. A lot of side-to-side contact there. Brown on the outside line of everybody, and it looks like he's got it done. Michael LeMay shuffled right to the back of the very group he was at the front of a few minutes ago. And now Paul LeMay pulls alongside him to try and take that position off him. Michael LeMay going to try and maybe dive down the inside of both of them, but that was very, very aggressive going down into the Tiergarten. A lot of side-to-side contact. It's not quite over, although Paul LeMay does make his way through into 9th position once again. Richard Brown very nearly took them both there.
I felt like I was staring directly at the sun now. I was squinting and having to watch that through squinted eyes, unfortunately. But, I mean, I can't believe that... I mean, there was a little bit of rubbing, but I cannot believe these radicals haven't just spat them from the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the circuit. There should only have been one driver who came out of that unscathed. It should have been the driver in the middle. I can't remember which LeMay that was. But very luckily, they were a little bit more aware than that. Oh, it's Richard Brown after he did a spectacular overtake. I mean, let's face it, you do call it a spectacular overtake because no one crashed. To get into the lead of this 3-way battle, he's now dropped down to 11th and at the back of this 3-way battle, having gone a little bit wide. But we did see Paul Crabb do that in the first lap, didn't we, unfortunately? And in fact... let's have a look and see if I can find where Paul Crabb went off track and see if we can sort of dissect what happened here, Ewan.
Yeah, well, it just looks like an outbreaking, really, more than anything else. It's not anything too flashy. Just getting too late on the brakes. Nowhere near turned in enough, and straight off the road for Paul Crabb. I think the more concerning thing for him be the fact that he's really not been able to make any inroads. After that, he has made up a few places, and he is catching Colin Wynne and Mike Boosson quite quickly now. He might be able to make his way onto the podium with still 3/4 of this lap to go.
Oh!
But not too much. Scott Lear off the road here, and Austin Greatorex has taken the lead on the final lap. It looks like a spin coming out of the Hatzenbach section for Scott Lear. So he drops to 5th, possibly outside of the top 5. Looks like he's going to hold on to that at least. But my goodness, drama on the final lap with a lead change as well.
Let's see how it happens then. You were probably absolutely right. It just looked like a spin on his own. I was about to shoot forward because Greatorex had gained about 1.5 seconds. And yeah, I mean, we'll see it from a different angle potentially. But you're absolutely right. I think he just lost it.
Looks like it. The onboard shot will give us a bit of a better idea. Wasn't it just clipping that curb as well, and then onto the grass on the outside there as well. It was a pretty hefty hit on the wall there. So he's going to be struggling a little bit. We've got Paul Clark and Ray Peasley just behind him now as well. So salvaging even a top 5 for Scott Lear here is going to be quite difficult. And he's scored 31 points in the 3 races he's had so far this season. But one of those was a top 5, which must have been a very good result. So the other 2 clearly have been problem-ridden. But he might be able to get his second top 5 of the season by the end of this. If he can just hang on. I'm not sure if he can. But he'll be hoping that he can. There's no doubt about that. He's obviously going to be very disappointed with himself that he spun around in quite that manner and lost the lead in that way.
He will be, yeah. However, he is actually pulling away slightly, isn't he? There from Paul Clark, and yeah, that's very impressive, I would say. What I would say about Scott Lear is this is hands down my favourite livery. It's a shame it's got scuffed up as I'm about to talk about it, but I can't remember the character's name, but it's Rugrats, isn't it? Did you ever watch Rugrats, Ewan?
No, I don't know what that is.
Then, you don't even know what it is. Shake my head in shame. No, that is it's a fantastic kids show from Nickelodeon back in the day, early 2000s. I don't want to say one of the original Nicktoons, but it certainly is back there. And yeah, fantastic looking livery, Scott Lear. I'm big props to you. You won the livery of the day for me anyway, even though I'm only guessing for this one particular round. Ray Peasley is right on the back of Paul Clark here, and I tell you what, this is getting a little bit tasty, isn't it? Paul, once upon a time, was obviously looking at the back of Scott's car, but something tells me he's been driving in his mirrors just a touch.
He has been falling back just a little bit now, and he's going to be on the defensive from Peasley, who's having actually a really good drive here today. Ray's 15th in the championship. only attended 8 of the 10 races so far, but he's going for it here. Moving further up even, going for it at the moment, side by side between a couple of drivers. Oh, and it's contact as well at the top of the hill. Slam into the wall for Colin Wynne as Paul Crabb tries to make his way through on a couple of the cars. Scott Lear suffering from the effects of no straight line speed, I think, there, and that's what's allowed Paul Clark and Ray Peasley through into now a battle for the top 5, but it'll probably be for 4th soon. Colin Wynne's touch on the wall there was not insignificant, and so that might cause him to fall back quite quickly. It was the mud curve and just before cluster tile that he went into the wall. It's a high speed corner, it's high risk when you're going side by side. Unfortunately, they took the risk and didn't get the reward.
I'll tell you what, we're looking at this little battle between Clark, Peasley and Lear. Just look behind them. Every so often he just shoots into sight. That is Simon Edwards, who obviously we've covered substantially on at the beginning of this race and his story throughout it. And he's coming up fast. Now, we only have about 30% of the lap remaining, which normally would be about, I don't know, 4 corners. But here, obviously, it's about 4 sectors. So it's there's still plenty of time, and obviously there's a Dottinger Straight, of course, for Simon Edwards to get into the slipstream and potentially make a move on these drivers. So I wouldn't be, I mean, I'd be impressed, but I wouldn't be 100% surprised if we see Simon Edwards all of a sudden get into the top 5, despite a pretty terrible start to the race. And look, all of a sudden, Colin Wynne, you mentioned him. We saw him crash, Ewan. You were absolutely right. It is a battle for 4th place because Colin has lost all that time. He's lost a lot of momentum. He's lost the slipstream, and he might well be losing 4th place.
That car is not handling well on the grass a little bit, and even through Schwalbenschwanz, they're going to go for it. My goodness, he just wants to stay out of it, and he does, thankfully, but he will drop back even further. Simon Edwards looks like he might just take him, although he might have had an issue himself there.
Yeah, he's disappeared.
He has been off himself, I'm afraid to say. Simon Edwards has been off himself, and so he's going to drop more points. Not enough to lose the title here today, but he is going to drop more points. There he is getting onto the grass and having a big hit on the wall. A couple of fairly big hits on the wall. So that is going to be a slightly worse finishing position for him in all this late drama. He's going to drop outside the top 10 even, as Michael LeMay and Richard Brown both make their way through. Scott Lear now is going to get eaten alive on the straight as well because of the damage he picked up. Ray Peasley now gets through, but further up in this order, Austin Greatorex is coming into the final few corners. It's one of his very first races in this championship this season. He's only done 3 so far. This is his 4th race at the 11th round, but it's easily his best to date. He comes up towards the line to win here at the Nordschleife. A great drive from him despite the issues earlier on, dropping to the lower part of the top 5. He ends up taking the victory ahead of Mike Booson. Late on, issue for Paul Crabb by the looks of things. He's going slowly at the moment. He will not be able to overtake Simon Edwards in the race for the title here today. The battle for the podium's not over just yet. Ray Peasley just about steals it on the line. Paul Clark in the end gets pushed off of it at the very end. Scott Lear will be disappointed with 5th after crashing from the lead on the final lap. Colin Wynne crashed also on the last lap. Paul Crabb drops to 7th at the very end. Simon Edwards also drops down. He comes across the line 11th, but he also confirms himself as a 3-time UK and Ireland Radical Race Series champion here in 2022. He did it at the end of season 2021. He's doing it in both of the first half seasons in 2022 as well. Who knows what he'll go on to do in the next season as well. But here's our first UK and Ireland Radical Race Series 3-time champion, despite his issues today.
Great driving. Really good driving. I mean, to be fair, I slated the Nürburgring when we actually opened this broadcast, and before this broadcast when we were just chatting, Ewan. It's provided us with some fantastic action, hasn't it? It's been really entertaining. I think if we were doing 5 laps, which I believe is what we did last time, then it may have been a bit tedious. But that was spectacular, and well done to Austin Greatorex. It just goes to show that you can recover around this track if you just keep persevering and the damage isn't too bad. And that's exactly what Austin did. It was a bit of a shame to see Paul Crabb go down the order at the end, but it's nice to sort of shine a light on a few other drivers that don't necessarily get the highlight that some of your championship leaders may well do. So fingers crossed we can actually have a chat to not only our champion but potentially Austin Greatorex as well, and maybe a few other drivers who have a few stories to tell. Maybe even second place in the championship, Paul Crabb. I'd love to be able to give you confirmation of the championship order, but obviously there's going to be stewards' inquiries, and they don't update things quite that promptly in the sim racing world. However, many people like to think that they do. So yeah, a great race. I'm sure a great championship. If that was anything to go by, then I'm sure it was a great championship. And I can only imagine that everybody's looking forward to next season.
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got one more round to go, of course, at Brands Hatch in 1 week's time. But yeah, that is it for racing here at the Nordschleife. I mean, I think the addition of the GP circuit did add a lot to that compared to the race last season. As you mentioned, it was 5 laps, but it didn't include the GP circuit. And so we managed to get an extra couple in. But maybe shortening that distance to 4 laps would be ideal as well. But I do think the addition of the GP circuit here in this race really helped that. It was a much more entertaining race than we saw to end off the first season of 2022, which wasn't a bad race, but that one was certainly maybe just that little bit better. We're broadcasting from a different... we'll get to that in a minute. I was about to talk about the interviews, but we'll get to that in a second. First of all, we'll go through the race results and confirm them officially, because Austin Greatorex has taken his first race win of the season ahead of Mike Booston and Ray Peasley. A strange podium, you might say. Well, it was a bit of a strange race. Paul Clark and Scott Lear round out the top 5. Colin Wynne just drops out of it on the final laps, as did Paul Crabb, I should say. Sergio Martinez de la Cruz finishes in 8th despite his spin on the first lap. Richard Brown and Michael LeMay both made it into the top 10. Simon Edwards was finished just outside of the top 10. Then it was Paul LeMay, Phil Glover, Guy Robertson, James Chowden, Damien Gee getting to the end. Martina Ward, Martin Booker and Phil Jocelyn all did not, unfortunately, in that one. As I was about to say, we are broadcasting from a different room today because of some things in the Discord channel. So that does make interviews a little bit more difficult. However, we are still going to get some people to join us, and Mike Booston has indeed done that now. We'll start with the podium drivers if they're possibly going to join us. Mike has. Welcome along, Mike. Good to have you here.
Good evening.
It's good to see you back on the podium again. Second place here at the Nordschleife. Are you a bit surprised with how that race turned out? Because it was a bit topsy-turvy.
Yeah, absolutely. A track that I absolutely hate. Obviously, a few people made my life a little bit easier, and yeah, I'll take that.
Absolutely. I love the pause after you said how much you hate that circuit. Because you emphasise that this circuit not to your liking does seem to be to many people's, to be honest. Talking about this season as a whole, really, I know there's one race to go. But how do you think it's gone for you overall?
Absolutely terrible, to be honest. I'm either on it or I'm not. Had some bad luck, but that's racing.
Absolutely. And speaking of that final race of the season, obviously Brands Hatch coming up next week. How are you feeling going into that?
Yeah, it's not a bad one for me. I don't know really what to expect. I don't race it that often. But then again, I never race this, to be fair. So this is anything to go by. You never know. Might won't go one better.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see if you can indeed do that in 1 week's time. Mike, thanks very much for coming to join us.
No, thank you.
Have a quick chat, and yeah, we'll see you in a week's time.
See you soon.
Thanks very much, Mike Booston there, second place. And I can now report as well, we've got Ray Peasley from third in that race as well. Ray, good to have you here as well. As I mentioned to Mike there, it's a very topsy-turvy race. How was it for you, and were you surprised to find yourself on the podium at the end? I'm not sure Ray's there. No, doesn't sound like it. For the moment, not sure if there's mic issues there or what's quite going on, but it doesn't look like we've got him for the moment. So we'll leave that unless he makes an appearance in a few moments' time. Of course, today as well, we do have to talk about the championship as we do every week, but this week more than ever because it has been sealed here today, despite a not textbook race. Simon Edwards has managed to clinch the title. here today due to the points tally so far, etc., etc. Simon, welcome to the booth as well. It's good to have you here. I mean, let's not dwell on the race too much. You must be very pleased to have clinched the title, nevertheless.
Yeah, I'm still spinning from that spin I did, trying too hard on the last lap. Yeah, I didn't. I thought this is one of John's favourite tracks, so I was thinking he was going to turn up definitely, and he's much faster than me around here, and he can start the car off the line better than me sometimes. I put it in second there, by the way. So I instant got like my wheels were doing 40 miles an hour instantly. So that was an interesting race. I was quite enjoying it actually until I nearly threw up in VR with the spinning. Yeah, but the championship, yeah, I didn't expect it to take it a week early, and it's one of my favourite tracks next week. So I was looking forward to that being the last race, but I'll still enjoy the race.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a great season, obviously, for you. Brands Hatch is coming up, and you'll be hoping to bounce back there a little bit, I guess. But yeah, talk us about the story. Obviously, you talked about getting off the line, but what happened down at turn 1 and 2? Obviously, it set you back for the day, really.
Yeah, Martina had locked up, and she said I apologised over the radio. I put myself there anyway, and she just I tried to avoid her, but she came across enough and just took the rear end of the car, and I managed to not spin, but and then when I was trying to creep round the I suppose it's second corner there, I suppose. I think we were 3 wide, and I just couldn't fit it through, and I ended up spinning a yellow car, and I don't know who that was. I think it might have been Guy Robertson. So I just sat.
Martina Della Cruz, I believe that one actually.
Oh, poor Mr. O'Cruz. Yeah, so I just sat there. I didn't want to push through him like a lot of people do in officials, just keep pushing. So I just sat there and waited for him to move. I didn't want to ruin his race as well. And then I was having a nice fight back. A nice enjoyable race. I had no top speed, so I was having to be a bit creative with the overtakes. But yeah, I was enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very enjoyable race to watch as well, with you a little bit further down. So
Hello.
yeah, thanks for providing that entertainment. Hello, by the way. We can now hear Ray Peasley, so we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, Simon, well done on the title once again, of course, for the third season in a row. And yeah, well done on the drive in today. I know the result wasn't to show for you, but yeah, congratulations nevertheless.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Simon Edwards, champion, of course, from season 2 in 2022. Now, I believe we can now hear from Ray Peasley, possibly. Hearing that.
Hello.
Hello? Yeah, okay. As long as he can hear us, then that's what matters, and we can hear him, and that's all lovely. Ray, how was that race for you? Third place in the end. A bit chaotic.
It was fantastic race with Paul Clark at the end. I was quite happy with P4, to be fair, but it was there. P3 was there. I got a couple of good exits and just went for it. I didn't expect to get it. I love that track. I do.
It's a fantastic circuit to race at, particularly to drive at, but to race at as well here today. It's produced a very good race indeed. I mean, comparing this to the rest of the season, would you say this is possibly your best result of the season? And how would you kind of do you think your season's gone overall?
Yeah, absolutely. I try as best as I can to stay out of people's way, but I do like to battle, sometimes a little bit too hard, and I'm trying to lay it back a little bit and do a bit of clever racing. But today, I was just intending just to go for the laps, keep it clean, stay alive till the end, and top 10, I'd be happy. So I'm well chuffed with the podium.
Absolutely. And it was a great podium at that. So, Ray, thanks very much for coming to join us and for a chat. It's been good to hear from you, and congratulations on getting third today.
Thank you very much, guys, and congratulations on doing a fantastic job all season.
Thanks very much, Ray Peasley, third place here today. One final interview we have for us at the moment. It doesn't look like anybody else is going to be joining us. Phil Glover is here, though, as we hear from every week. Pretty much every week these days. Phil, good to have you here once more. We're finishing down in 13th here today. How was that race for you? How did you see everything going on around you during that race?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say a real well done to Ray. It's great to see. I'm taking anything away from people like Simon, but it's great to see a change at the top in the race there. So well done, Ray, and the rest of the three on the podium. My race, well, I don't know. I got involved in somebody else's misfortune, unfortunately, which put me. I don't. This is becoming a repeated story. I appreciate it. Happened to me last week as well. But I did manage to pull myself back to 13th. But yeah, I mean, it was relatively uneventful. And it was a real shame. Guy was just in front of me, but lost it on one of the last of the few corners. So I did pick up a place that probably wasn't mine for the taking, although I think I was catching him. But yeah, so always enjoyable.
Absolutely. Oh, what is your opinion on the Nordschleife and having it in the? I know people don't like having it in every single season, but what is your opinion on having the Nordschleife in overall?
Well, I love it. I really like the track. It's rewarding if you get it right, and it's very uncomfortable if you don't. Uh, the I wasn't sure about having the actual race circuit. I'm not that keen on that. So I spent quite a bit of my time practicing, just driving through the cones and just doing the race circuit bit, just to try and practice that a bit. But yeah, that first corner is very tricky. Well, the second corner actually, the first one you can make, but it's getting around the second corner without spinning is quite a challenge.
Absolutely, it's a very challenging circuit indeed. But yeah, 13th place for you here today, Phil. Congratulations on that, and thanks very much for coming to talk to us.
You're welcome. See you next week.
Absolutely. See you next week. Indeed, Phil Glover, the 13th place here today. That looks like it's it then, Jack, for the interviews here today. I guess one final word from us, really. Penultimate round here of the season. A great race here at the Nordschleife, especially compared to a couple of seasons previous, obviously. We've had racing here in the past, but this was a real good race.
I was going to say it was a race and a setting to sort of see off any championship. Really, it was worthy of being the finale. It was fantastic. Simon Edwards didn't quite have it all his own way. I'm sure he's used to by now. Obviously, neither did a couple of the poles. It was nice to see Gostin Greatorex at the top and a few other drivers. So, yeah, all in all, a really enjoyable night's racing. Hopefully, all of the drivers have enjoyed it. And now the championship is sort of settled and the pressure's off in a lot of ways, they can just go into the final race of the season, weights off their chest, and just get out there and enjoy it.
Absolutely, and we will enjoy the next week's racing as well as we bring it to you on Absolute Sim Racing once again. Make sure you tune in, same time, same place for the finale at Brands Hatch. Round 12 of the UK&I and Radical Race Series 2022 Season 2 will be coming your way in 1 week's time, where I'll be alongside Dan Handover once again. But for now, from me, Ewan O'Leary, alongside Jack Oliphant here tonight, and all of the drivers at UK&I and Radical Race Series, it's goodbye for now.